Hey, is this thing on? Are we recording? Can I get a tech person? Oh, for the love of EdTech. In case you missed it, we announced our We Love Educators giveaway. This giveaway is exclusively for you, our podcast listeners. We are thrilled to be giving away some of our For the Love of EdTech merch, a free month of Teacher Campus, which is our online professional development platform, as well as a $50 Amazon gift card. All you have to do is go to the CET Public Television Facebook page, the Think TV Network Facebook page, or the SOITA Facebook page and share a post about our podcast with your friends.
Or write a review for the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Then take a screenshot of your post and email it to our producer, Kristen, at kteter@thinktv.org. The giveaway goes until April 22nd, 2022. Rules and regulations apply. You can view the giveaway details at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org. Thanks for supporting our podcast. We love our educators.
Hey, Corinne.
Hey, Kara.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm great.
Who are we talking to today?
So today we're talking to Michael Foy, who is a middle school STEAM teacher in central New Jersey. And I'm super excited to talk to him just because he is utilizing Minecraft in his classroom. And so I'm super excited to hear what he has to say, kind of how that all started and what he's seen along the way.
It sounds like he has a really unique class. I can't wait to hear about it.
All right, joining us today is Michael Foy, who is a middle school STEAM teacher in central New Jersey. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us and agreeing to talk to us about all the cool things you're doing in your class.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So first, I am just curious, how did you decide to become a teacher?
Well, I probably did not take the traditional route where it was always my dream and that's what I wanted to do and things like that. Or there was one inspirational teacher I had that was like, oh, that's what I wanted. I didn't have any of that. Honestly, if I'm going to be truly honest, Dead Poet Society inspired me to become a teacher.
Wow.
The movie. Yes,
yeah.
with Robin Williams as Mr. Keating. At the time when I saw that movie, I was probably in high school.
Okay.
And I really wanted to be an actor. That was my thing. I was very involved in high school. I was involved in community theater and the high school theater. And I wanted to go to school to study acting and theater. And my parents were very much against it. They're like, that's a waste of money. We're not going to do that. So I went to school for English. I majored in English because I thought it's similar. It's close enough. Yeah. And I studied Shakespeare and I still did shows and plays throughout all of college as well. And I graduated college, undergrad, and I knew I needed to do something. I needed to get a job or I needed to go back to school. And I was directionless, so directionless. My friend and I, we traveled across the country for that entire summer.
Oh, how cool.
From both sides of the coast. And we got back from that trip. And I was like, I gotta get my life in order. So there was one day left to register for classes. So I registered for grad school in teaching. And it was more of like, my mom's like, I think you'd be good at this. There was not really like that calling. So I did that. And when I graduated with my master's in teaching, then I just put my application out there to see what would happen. And I literally applied to every school position around. And I was one day away, almost was going to be a fifth grade general ed teacher. And but the day before that, I got a phone call to teach at language arts, 8th grade at a middle school. And I've been in middle school ever since. And actually, I did my student teaching in high school, English.
Okay.
English 4. And I realized very quickly that high school was not the place for me because at the time I looked like I was in high school.
Yeah,
and I was literally teaching kids that I was 2 years older than. And it was not a good situation. So I think you have to be a little crazy to teach middle school, which I am. And I also like the fact that I looked older than most of them, not all of them. And I felt like the thing that really upset me in high school, when I taught high school, was that there were so many kids that were just not invested. They didn't care. They had already gone into college, so they didn't care, or they knew they were going into construction, so they didn't care, and no one cared. And that I couldn't wrap my head, like I couldn't get them excited about stuff. And in middle school, I feel like I can still catch their attention and get them before they get to that point and get them excited. And I can be goofy, but still treat them kind of like a high school student.
Yeah.
So I started out in language arts as a language arts teacher, and I was directing the school plays, and I was very much involved in all of that. But I always had a love of technology, and whatever technology was available, I always grabbed it, whatever I could get my hands on, and I brought it into my classroom, and I tried to incorporate that into whatever I was doing. And so I always had that also interest and love of tech and trying to get that into whatever I was teaching. So, I've been teaching a long time. This is almost 25 years. So I've done a lot of different things. I started out in language arts. There was a short time there where I convinced. So in my middle school, we have a program. It's called the cycle classes. And these classes are like sometimes called specials in other schools. It's where you find art and music. And we had a teacher that retired who was a cycle teacher. And when she retired, I convinced my principal, I was like, what if I did theater all the time? And he's like, all right, try it. So I taught a theater class as a cycle class. So what I was doing after school, I was now doing all day long. And I loved it. I had the auditorium was my classroom, this giant auditorium with a stage. I had every student in 8th grade up there on the stage performing, whether they liked it or not, which is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And it was great. And I had a lot of fun doing that. But then when my son was born, my wife took off. She's also in education, and she took off the first year to be with him. And then I actually took off the second year. I was Mr. Mom.
Nice.
And so I got to stay home and go to play groups and all of that stuff. And that was the best job I've ever had. And when I left, my class left with me because no one else was really going to do that. So then when I came back after my maternity leave, they put me back in language arts. So I was there for another long time. And again, whatever tech was out there, I always grabbed. So I have been teaching long enough that, I started out with literally hardly any tech in the room. It was an overhead projector. It was a VCR. And I was bringing in, videotapes and showing movie clips and things like that. And whatever, though, would come along, I'd be like, all right, let's try and figure it out, take advantage. And I was always eager to try new things, whatever it may be, and just see. That would be my biggest advice to anyone in teaching is just try it. The worst thing that happens is, well, that didn't work, and then you don't do it again. And you try something else the next day.
Like, you don't have to be an expert. Just try it.
Right.
And see if it is something you want to continue to do.
Right. And if you like it, you'll try it again. And there have been things that I've dabbled in for a while and I get really excited about, and then I forget about them and I move on to something else. But that's, technology kind of works the same way.
Yeah.
So like going way back, like we had like just a computer lab that you'd have to sign out and bring the kids down. And the turning point was when we finally went 1-to-1 ratio with Chromebooks. And that's when everything changed. And that's when like Web 2.0 emerged. That's when teaching really changed too. And a lot of the older teachers, they struggled with it. They had a tough time adjusting. A couple off the top of my head, I know they retired because they saw where education was going, and they were like, we don't feel comfortable with it. But I loved it. So I actually was tapped by my principal to train other language arts teachers, and he would give me days off where I would go into their classrooms and I would help them with technology, and I would like either show them lessons that I was doing or co-teach with them. And he asked me if I wanted to make that my full-time job the following year and just become a tech person. And I thought about it and I went back and forth, and in the end I stuck with teaching, which turned out to be the smart thing because that job was temporary and it didn't last very long. But it's another example of how I've always, whatever was available, jumped at it and tried to incorporate it. And even like doing this, a podcast. So I'm not teaching language arts now, but already I'm thinking, okay, how would I use a podcast in the classroom and would I have my students do like book talks and make a podcast of like a book conversation or book reviews, or maybe we do radio plays, or like there's so many cool things. I was always figure out how to use the tech in the classroom, which might not always be the best educational philosophy. Like a lot of people would say, you really shouldn't use the tech first, but I like the bells and whistles. That's always attracted me. And I think it's a great way to get the kids excited and interested in whatever we're trying to do.
Yeah. And if it inspired you, it could potentially inspire one of them. So
right. There's one thing I'm good at faking, it's enthusiasm. So
that's where you get to practice your acting skills.
Exactly. Yeah. But I usually, I usually am excited about whatever I'm trying, I try to make school fun and exciting and interesting for my kids.
Yeah. So how did you land in STEAM?
So now, basically, it was a very similar situation. So I had been teaching language arts for a long time. I took another maternity leave in there when my daughter was born. That time I took 2 years off. And then I saw a cycle teacher, same situation, was retiring. It was kind of a running joke between me and my principal. Every year I'd be like, hey, how about that theater class? Can I bring that back? And he'd be like, nope. And it was like, all right. So I finally, something clicked when I started taking my son to visit colleges, because now my son is in college, and going on all these college visitations, I kept hearing the same thing that colleges wanted in their students and wanted their students to be able to do when they left. And it was collaboration. It was, being creative, problem solvers, and all these things. And also at that time, STEM was already big. STEM was, still the buzzword. Everyone, STEM. We need STEM jobs. Like that was the big buzzword at the time. And STEAM was just starting out to be something. Someone was like, hey, yes, science and technology, engineering and math, these are all important, but what about the arts? That's where the creativity is. That you can't dream up the iPhone unless you have someone dream up the iPhone. And so I feel that's what, the arts are important for that creativity. So I went to the principal with a new buzzword, and I just threw out, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to ask about the theater class, but what about a STEAM class? And he's like, yes, that I like. Go come up with some ideas. So I started doing research on STEAM and STEM and trying to figure out what type of class I could do. And eventually, when walking out of his office that day, he was like, there are 2 rules. Maybe 2 years before my class started, we started something in my school. They call it STEMbotics. And it's the Lego robots that they use, the Mindstorm.
Okay.
And so that became a cycle class where the kids are building their Lego robots and programming them. And it's awesome. So he's like, no robots, number 1. And number 2, keep it language arts based, because we already had a lot of cycle classes that were more science based. So when he said, all right, keep it language arts based, immediately in my mind, I thought of Disney World. Because I love Disney, and I am a big fan of Disney World and the Imagineers. Mm-hmm. And when the Imagineers, when they build anything, when they create anything, they always start with a story. That's their number 1 principle. So having known that, immediately I thought of, what if my kids got to design theme park attractions, and I would be able to blend language arts and the technology. And that was my first pitch. And I went in, I had a bunch of other ideas, but I never got to number 2 because he's like, that's it. I love it. Let's do that. So basically, my cycle class, STEAM Academy, is basically an Imagineering type of class where the kids get together in groups. They come up with a concept for a theme park attraction of their own, and they develop the concept. And we look at how the Imagineers go through their design process, and we try to mimic all of the same steps up to the presentation point, and then obviously we're not building but beyond that. But so that's kind of how I became the STEAM teacher. And because I used that word STEAM as my selling point, it also kind of became the name of the class. Now, am I technically a real STEAM class? Probably not. I keep asking. I said a better name of the class is truly story design, because what we do, I have the kids develop a story idea and they're designing it. And just like the Imagineers, they're storytellers. They don't write their stories, they build them in their attractions. So I have that same approach. We're storytellers. They make up a story, and they, instead of writing their story, they're building their story as well in a simulation. And that was the other point where in developing the course where I had a crossroad. I was like, how are we going to show these concepts? There are multiple ways we could do it. We could create a makerspace area, and I could bring in a ton of cardboard and things, and the kids could literally build roller coaster type things. But to me, that seemed very messy. And again, I love technology. So I started thinking, all right, how can we do this in a virtual type of setting? And after looking at different programs, and that is where I settled on, Minecraft. And that's where Minecraft comes in. So Minecraft is the key to where the kids can literally build anything in Minecraft. And so after developing their story and going through that process of development, they make a virtual model of their ride, and they do it all in Minecraft. And that's kind of how I got here.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Yeah. Okay, so you decided on Minecraft. Then you obviously need computers and the software and all of that stuff. So how did you get all the things?
Well, yeah, I still can't believe that I'm actually getting away with this in an actual public school classroom setting. And every day I feel like they're going to take it away from me. So all of this happened 5 years ago.
Okay.
So at the time, I'm not even sure if Minecraft Education Edition was out. Oh. It might have been. And at the time also, I'll preface that now the Imagineers have something called Imagineering in a Box that's done through Khan Academy. That did not exist at the time either. Mm-hmm. So I'm always like 2 steps ahead of where other people wind up. So I feel like, people are like, you stole that idea from Khan Academy. I'm like, no, they stole it from me. I started. but it's become a great resource. So anyway, all right. So we had to figure out how are we going to then bring Minecraft into the classroom. And again, there are multiple ways to do this. And I'm all about cheap, inexpensive, because I'm a public school teacher and I don't have a lot of funding. So when we looked at all the various ways of getting it in, I had to, try to scramble and figure this out. So we looked at desktops would be great, but desktops the ones that we have in our school, they weren't able to run the program. So that was out. iPads would work, but our school doesn't have iPads. My school, I didn't really talk about the school itself. So my school, it's just 7th and 8th grade middle school that has nearly 1,200 students. So it's about 600 kids in each grade level. And it's a huge school district. But we don't have, the iPads are all in the younger schools, like K-2, I think, have the iPads. We have Chromebooks. And at that time, that wasn't an option either. So after looking at various things, we wound up actually buying Xboxes. And so this was the cheapest, easiest way to get Minecraft into the room. So the way that I have my room set up right now is I have 6 Xboxes. And they are all attached to a television. Nothing fancy. Each television was a Best Buy $100 TV, but the setup works. Each Xbox has 4 controllers, so the students are able to be playing all together in that same virtual world on Xbox. The other nice thing is I was able to scrounge through some other friends these little Samsung tablets, and the tablets actually also can connect to the Xbox world, as long as they're on the same Wi-Fi. So that's another way. So basically, if you're a teacher out there and you're like, how can I get Minecraft in my room? You don't have to have a whole, I've got this nice setup where I can have multiple students on it, but even bringing in one Xbox with controllers or a few old iPads or maybe from some old phones would even be able to run it. There are ways you could bring it into your classroom and maybe have a station where kids could take turns using it to create whatever. So if you're a language arts teacher, maybe build the setting from a story that you've just read. Or if you're a social studies teacher, they could reenact a war type thing. Or there's so many cool things you could do with Minecraft that I think teachers could have a lot of fun, and the students definitely love it. If you have the money or even the lack of money, there are ways to bring Minecraft into the room and have fun with it. And another great resource would be the Minecraft Education website. Has lots of lesson plans for teachers.
Nice.
and more STEM type things than probably what I'm doing. And there are contests that are being held nationwide where if you have the education edition, you can take part in this and the kids can get a part of it. So there's a lot of cool things out there.
Question for you. Since you've got 4 controllers, do you set your groups at 4? Or do you extend it and everybody kind of has a role?
I've done both.
Okay.
So pre-COVID, I had a lot of other things going on in here as well. So we had the Minecraft portion, and since I had 6 Xboxes, I tried to keep the groups to 6 so that they would have the Xbox available each day, which meant some groups, depending on the class side, would have 5 or 6 students in that group.
Okay.
But other elements that I also brought in was I brought in a green screen, and I had them filming pre-shows and other elements for their ride concept in front of the green screen. So it wasn't just kids playing on the Xbox. You would also have this, group. I have a double classroom, which is nice. So I'd have some kids in the corner would be filming. Some other kids would be, playing Minecraft. Other kids would be designing artwork and concept art. So there's a lot of different elements. And so there are different roles that the kids can play throughout the project. And last year, I actually didn't teach the class last year. At the beginning of the school year, a teacher resigned in the language arts department, and they felt more comfortable putting a sub in my class and putting me back in the language arts classroom. And because of COVID, we weren't allowed to use the Xboxes anyway, so they went in the closet for 2 years. So I came back to it this year, and now with still trying to distance the kids, I've spread them out. So now I'm trying to limit the sizes of my groups to about 3 or 4. And now they're on an every other day schedule with the Xbox, which is not ideal, which is why I would love to get more either Xboxes in the room or have them be able to use Chromebooks to play. The more kids that are involved in it, the better.
Yeah.
But, 4 it's still nice that they can still have 4 in the same world and collaborating that way too.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so when you were talking about the skills that the colleges were looking for over your 5 years kind of this program, what benefits and success stories kind of have you seen for those 21st century skills by the implementation of this program?
So it's definitely at the middle school level, getting kids to collaborate and work together is a challenge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even with Minecraft, it's still a challenge. You would think it would solve all problems. It doesn't solve all problems. But to me, I know that leaving my class and learning how to play Minecraft is not going to change their lives. So I want them to leave with some better collaboration skills, learning how to work with others, communication skills. I have 2 rules in my class that I stole from a book I read a long time ago. It's to be nice and work hard. And that's it. And I feel like these 2 rules cover everything in life. If you can be nice throughout your life and work hard, you'll be successful. So I push that, especially when it comes to the collaboration part. And I use the Minecraft to try to get them to that point. Mm-hmm. So I start off with Minecraft slowly. So the kids come in, some of them are experts already, and they have been playing since they were young, and they know way more than I do on what you can do with Minecraft. And then there are other kids who haven't played at all or maybe in a long time. So I have to do a little training before we get into the actual project. And part of that training that it's kind of fun and it's kind of, sometimes it's stressful, but I do this 20-minute design challenge with them where they only have 20 minutes, and the entire time I'm into it. I'm in my full game show mode, and I'm counting down, and I'm like, and this group is doing this, and sometimes I even put on dramatic music to heighten the tension, but it's really a test on their collaboration skills. And are they talking to each other? Are they screaming at each other? Is one kid just sitting back and giving up? And so after this 20-minute challenge, which I don't really care what they actually build, it's more about how are they working together. And I have them do a reflection afterwards. How did your group work together? What was your role? And the Minecraft is a great vehicle to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I hope that they get a little, I hope it inspires their creativity. The class is meant to be fun. It's a break from the rest of their school day.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to be part of the core teaching and have those standardized tests hovering over you and all of the, as a language arts teacher especially, it's the amount of responsibilities and subject areas and content that is required of a language arts teacher. It's insane. And you're constantly juggling balls in the air of what am I going to cover today and how am I going to get it all in? So this is a nice break from all that. The kids can come in here. I want it. It's a relaxed atmosphere. They're excited. They already know. They've heard. They know that Minecraft is part of this class. So most of them have already bought in before they get to me. And so I really hope that they take away that collaboration part, the creativity, walk away with a little creativity, maybe a little more understanding of Disney. That's the other thing. I'm not getting paid or endorsed by Disney, but I certainly have a lot of kids going home asking if they're allowed to go, if they can have a family trip to Disney after my class because of how much I talk about Disney.
Yeah.
So it's, it's a fun class.
And I know that you kind of mentioned before on the technology realm of teachers wanting to try things, like just try it. But could you offer any other tech related tip or trick that you feel like all teachers should either keep in mind or take away?
Tough one. The way I have always approached technology is I just jump in. And sometimes I don't know what I'm doing with it. And sometimes I jump in too soon, maybe. I think so. Back when I was asked if I would go into other language arts teachers and help them out, some of the teachers were like, how do you know this already? Why? And it was only because of my own curiosity. And I'd be one that would fall into, a Google search,
rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole, exactly. And just keep going from one thing to the next, or a bunch of TED Talks or YouTube videos or whatever it may be, or a podcast. And, and that's keep exploring and talking to other teachers. I'm part of online graduate course now where other teachers are sharing some of the tech that they're using. And I've never heard of Bluekit until a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, Bluekit, awesome.
Isn't that fun?
Next day I'm trying it in class. And the kids are like, this is so cool. We want to do more. Like that's how I play. I just play with things. Last year when I was back in the language arts classroom, Gimkit, which is another fun site, they tried a trial of Gimkit Inc., which I was so excited about. So Gimkit Inc. was a way for the kids to publish their writing.
Oh, cool.
And they could publish and they could see each other's, and they could publish either anonymously or not, but I would still be able to know who it was. So it happened right when I was going back in the language arts room, and I'm like, this is like, I signed up. I actually had early access to the site, and so I had my kids going on Gimkit Inc. Like I just try stuff. Another Flipgrid is a great site for creating videos and video blogs and things like that. So I see something, I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to try it. So last year, when we studied A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I had all my students had to do, they had to audition on Flipgrid, and they had to make a video of them performing monologues from the play. And I thought that was really, kind of fun and cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just always trying this. I just try things. And that's, just try new things. And, it doesn't always work. Sometimes I try stuff and it's a flop and I'm like, all right, we're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Do your kids ever give you
feedback?
Yeah.
I'm always asking I'm always tweaking. Even though this class I've been doing for a few years now, I'm always changing. I'm always tweaking. I'm always adding. Like Bluekit last week was the first time I tried it. I'm always trying. I'm always asking them for their opinions and to tell me, about cool things that they've tried. WeVideo is the video software that we were using in class to edit their videos, which was really cool because after they build their Minecraft, we're capturing it. So we make a video capture of it, and then we send it to the OneDrive. And from the OneDrive, I'm able to take it, and I can download it and put it in WeVideo, where then they can add music to it and titles and other elements into the video. So when they do their presentations at the end of the course, they have all these other elements in there. It's not just the Minecraft.
Yeah.
So, and again, I just kind of stumbled upon WeVideo, and I thought it was cool. I start everything. I'm cheap, so I start everything on a trial basis. Now, those first few videos, it had the big giant watermark on it, and like it's kind of like a proof of concept. It's like, does this work?
Yeah.
And that one worked. So I went to my administrator, like, all right, I don't need you to buy tons of WeVideo accounts. I just want 6. Mm-hmm. So I have 6 accounts because I was doing 6 groups, and each group shares that account. And even though I have 5 different periods throughout the day where I'm having different kids come in, those kids are in the same account, and it doesn't matter because they're not, I'm like, just don't touch other people's videos, and it's all good. And that's worked out fine. So I try to do things, as cheaply as possible. If it's a free thing online, I'm definitely all about that. And until they eventually start charging you for it, which inevitably always happens.
I know.
But it's...
Love that. Just try it bit, because I think as teachers, we're so afraid to fail in front of our students. We want to look like we are the master of this content. And I actually think it's really important to model and talk through failure with them, because I think there's a whole generation of kids that are so afraid to fail because they haven't seen how failure stimulates growth. Right.
Especially my son he's a mechanical engineering, and that I remember some of the pitches were, failure. We want you to fail because you learn from your mistakes. So it's, that definitely is part of the process. And I have absolutely no ego, and I have no problem failing in front of the kids, and I'll try whatever. And so, they just think I'm goofy. Because I am.
Okay, I have one more question. So I want to know, I guess, first of all, how long is your cycle, like the course cycle?
So we run on a quinmester. So we have 5 different groups of 36 days throughout the year.
Oh, wow.
So by the end of the school year, I will have taught every kid in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I have 5 classes a day. Okay. So it becomes a grind. A little bit.
Yeah.
I am wrapping up. There's 2 days left of this cycle. And then on Friday, I got to start all over again. So once I train them, once I get them all good and they know exactly what they're doing, they leave me. They're out the door.
Okay. So then my next question is, in that time that you have them, are they essentially working on this project for that entire cycle?
Yeah. The project takes the entire cycle.
Yeah.
The way I'm giving them that background information about Imagineering and the Imagineering process. So they don't get to touch an Xbox for the first few, probably 2 weeks. And then when we do, it's like, well, we start with the training aspect, and of course it's every day. When do we get to play? When do we get to play?
Right.
Like, well, you need a plan. You can't just jump on the Xbox and think you're going to start, building this wonderful thing. You have to have a plan. So I have them make somewhat of a blueprint and storyboard everything out before they get to go play Xbox.
Okay.
And
so they go through that entire process, like really the whole time.
It's really a true combination. When I want to call it story design, it really is that, because I go through a lot of language arts stuff with the story elements, and we get into all of the literary devices and plot and all of that. We talk about that and building up the story, and they create a storyboard of everything. And then we also go through the design process, and we look at, how that works and how that applies to what the Imagineers do. And, shout out to Khan Academy, because now that I have that Imagineering design class that they've created, a lot of those videos are great because it brings in that expert. Everything that I created in the beginning, I made up. And I just made it up based on, what I was able to find online and my own just experience with Disney and reading different books about the process. So it actually, when the Khan Academy program came out, I felt like, all right, I was on the right track. I wasn't just making stuff up out of thin air. I was definitely in the right ballpark, and a lot of the videos that they created match up with what I was trying to do already. It's interesting, when COVID first hit and we were all sent home, and it was literally Friday the 13th, we're in school, and then Monday we're online. And at that time, I was like, how am I ever going to do this class? This class, everything happens in this classroom. And I had to quickly, with no, warning, figure out how I'm going to make this work. And that was right around the time when that Khan Academy came out. So that was a lifesaver for me. And when it came to do the final project, and everybody now is home, I made it optional not everyone had Minecraft. And I was looking to try to find free versions online and things that would work. And nothing really was great. So kids that had Minecraft, they were able to still do it the same way. But kids that didn't, remember I said in the beginning, do I do this a physical class, and do I have like a makerspace? So those kids made physical models. And it worked out just as well. And it was actually, for me at that time, because now I was 3 years into it, I was excited to see something besides the Minecraft. It was like, oh, this is a whole new way of looking at it. And and the kids were so ingenious and what they came up with and how creative they were and how they were able to still show their concepts without using the Minecraft. It was really neat to see, and they made videos of all of these things. And,
oh, cool.
And so thank goodness we had Google Classroom, and we were able to stay connected. And this year has been a little bit more normal, because at least I was able to have the kids work in groups. Where last year, we weren't even allowed to do group work. We had to sit in rows. It was like the 1950s all over again. So at least we're moving back towards normalcy.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today, Mike. It was so great to talk to you.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our discussion today. If you like our podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to get notified when new episodes are released.
For more information about our podcast and to access links and resources referenced in this episode, check us out at fortheloveofedtech.org.